let's look at another example of an application of linear equations. Here we're going to look at simple interest, and the way we calculate simple interest is the interest earned is the principal invested times the annual interest rate times the time that is invested. And the time is usually going to be in years. Now this is going to give us just the amount of interest that's earned on that principal. Another thing to note is this is simple interest. This does not account for compounding, which we'll talk about later, compound interest. That's calculated with a different type of, formula. All right, so interest is principal rate times time. Okay, so let's look at an example dealing with this. So Julie invested $1,500 in a risky high-tech stock, maybe some cryptocurrency, on January 1st. On July 1st, so how much time has passed? Think about it. Her stock is worth $1,200. Okay, so an increase by, $600. Okay. She knows that her investment does not earn interest at a constant rate, naturally, but she wants to determine her average rate of return at this point. Fair enough. We know what is her average rate of return that she's earned so far. Okay, well, we can calculate that. We're interested in this, the rate, right? We are given all of the other pieces of information, how much she initially invested, we're given that. The time, how long, we can calculate that. And we're given how much she earned, which we can calculate also from the amount left in the account after the time passed. So let's write down all this relevant information. So the principal we know immediately is $1,500. The interest I, we can calculate by taking the amount in the account after the time period ended minus the principal, so $1,500. So the interest earned was $600. Time? Well, if 1 is a year, we're going to go from January 1st to July 1st. Right? So January, February, March, April, May, June. Right? So, and then we end on the end of June. The end of June starts July 1st. So that's 6 months in total. That's half the year. So the time is 1/2 year. Right? It ends on July 1st. It means it goes up to June, right, 30th, right, and then at midnight on that day, boom. Then we look and we see got $2,100 in the account. Okay, so that's half the year. Okay. All right, so the time is 1/2 of a year. Great. Okay, I think we have everything we need now. We have the interest earned, we've got the principal, and we have the time the investment was active. All right, so let's write this down. So we've got interest, 600, equals principal invested, 1,500, times the interest rate, we don't know that, just leave that as R, times the time of 1/2. Okay, let's solve this. So we take half of 1,500 first of all. That's going to be 750. So 600 equals 750 times R. We need to divide by 750 to get the rate. So the rate's going to be 60 over 75. Let's see, so there's a 3 in there. Let's cancel that out. So 3 would be 20 over 25. Because 3 divided by 60 is 20, and 3 divided by 75. You could use your calculator at this point. I'm just trying to figure out what this is going to be in terms of the hundredths, because we typically represent an interest rate in terms of a percentage. So here I can multiply numerator and denominator by 4 and get 80 over 100 equals the rate. Well, that means that the rate is 80% yearly interest, right? Quite a lot for this risky high-tech stock. All right, so what is our average rate of return? Yeah, 80%. Okay. If we wanted to, say, figure out how much is earned, say it keeps up like this, I can't imagine it would, but let's say it kept up at this rate, we could then go back to this formula. We know the initial investment. We can then put in the rate and then figure out, project out how much she would earn in interest over that amount of time. Like I said, it's important to note that this is simple interest, so we're just simply looking for the interest earned on a principal, a rate, and then a time. This does not consider compounding, so that's an important thing to take note of. We'll deal with that later. Okay.